As you travel through the Dark Shrine, you can find a series of notes from a family physician that detail something horrific that happened to a certain family. The notes don't tell us specifically which family this is, but considering that we find them in the Dark Shrine and we know that something terrible happened to the Tsuneki family, leading to Kotoyuki being invited back to become the new heir, well, it's not hard to guess who the notes are talking about. But what happened to the Tsuneki family? Why are these notes scattered all around the shrine? And perhaps most importantly, who did this to them? First, a little background. The game tells us that the Tsunekis are the most notable family in this area and are known for their wealth. When disaster strikes, they always seem to be around to take advantage of that, and they use these tragedies to fill their own coffers. They're extremely skilled businessmen, and even around town you can see signs like the one on the side of Chizuruya that advertise their businesses. You could say they pretty much run these parts, in more ways than one. The Tsunekis aren't just any family. Rearrange the letters of their name and what do you get? Kitsune. They are members of the Fox clan, which the game tells us came to Ebisugaoka from the west, long ago, in order to subdue the water dragon. When these foxes arrived, they found the villagers of what is now Ebisugaoka worshipping a fox statue. Naturally, they took it upon themselves to encourage that, and the people's faith in them bolstered their own powers. So much so that they were actually able to defeat the water dragon, sealing it beneath a large rock, atop of which they built a shrine called Heaven's Benediction. This is called Tenzui in Japanese, and it's the name of that company selling kerosene on the Chizuruya wall, by the way. I'm sure they thought they were real smooth with naming that one. At any rate, these foxes came, saw, conquered, and decided to stick around. They co-opted the unique Inari religion that was growing in this area, basically kicking the old god to the curb. They set up their shrine as sacred ground to keep the water dragon, yet another old god, down, and then set about establishing their empire. But the thing about old gods is that they never really die. They just lie in wait, getting angrier and angrier, waiting for their opportunity to strike. And in the case of the water dragon, well, that thing was so powerful that it required pretty much constant sacrifices to keep it from acting up. But over time, these sacrifices proved to be less and less effective. So, the foxes realized they had to do something else. As Mayumi, one of the women kidnapped by the Tsuneki family and forced to marry into them, tells us, it is a core tenet of Shintoism that each land throughout all Japan is protected by its own deities. From this, people pray to the gods so that they and their lands might be blessed. In turn, their belief strengthens the gods and gives them the ability to better protect the land in a beneficial cycle of reciprocation. Thus, the bond between humans and gods is vital to the prosperity of both. In short, the gods need the people, and the people need the gods. So, what if, rather than sacrificing girls to calm the water dragon, the foxes, or the Tsuneki clan, instead mingled their blood with mortals, and simply strengthened their own power that way? But this couldn't be done with just any old person. No, it could only be done with the most special of girls. As Mayumi also tells us, there exist rare individuals who possess non-ABO blood types. These people are thought to be blessed by the stars, and when one of them is born into the village, the Fox clan seeks them out. In old times, they would simply spirit the girl away, force her into marriage, then have children with her, strengthening the Fox clan with that all-important, incredibly rare and unique mortal blood. This deepened the Tsuneki's ties to Ebisugaoka and allowed them to easily continue their reign over the years. On the regular mortal front, they built their businesses and power, and on the divine front, they strengthened their bloodline and kept all the other local deities in check. So, with all that out of the way, let's come back to the present, or almost present, of the game. At some point during the 1930s, Hidetoshi, the then heir of the Tsuneki family, started an affair with one of the maids, Sachie. Sachie came from a poor family, but her beauty shone brighter than the sun. This caught Hidetoshi's eye, and before long, Sachie fell pregnant. But being the daughter of a poor farming family made her a poor choice of wife for such a rich and powerful heir. So, a marriage to a young noblewoman was instead arranged, and Sachie was kicked out with her unborn child. Returning to Ebisugaoka, Sachie gave birth and named her son Kotoyuki, taking a character from her name and a character from Hidetoshi's name. This way, the family would know who he was simply by seeing his name. And Sachie was convinced that because of his blood, Kotoyuki was different. Special. "You have noble blood running through your veins," she told him in a letter. She raised him to be a gentleman, someone who may presently be poor of pocket, but not poor of heart. It is told that those of the Tsuneki lineage are destined to bring good fortune when the world is in disorder. In fact, that is how your father earned succession to the Tsuneki lineage. And you, who have inherited your father's noble blood, are sure to be next in line. The Tsuneki family is basically a constant survival of the fittest, and Hidetoshi, Kotoyuki's father, was the winner of the last tragedy to strike the family. And Sachie is certain that this time Kotoyuki will do the same. When he's only 9 years old, Kotoyuki was playing in the park with some other boys when a wild fox suddenly appeared and attacked him. The fox cut beneath his left eye, causing him to bleed everywhere, and it was a young Shimizu Hinako who stepped up to help him, while everyone else simply watched. But this wasn't just any regular old fox that bit him. This was his ancient ancestor, a very old fox god, and when he was bitten, Kotoyuki was possessed by him. The first steps had just been taken to install the next Tsuneki head, and to marry the next woman with that special, unique blood the foxes so deeply desired. Who, of course, was Hinako, the young girl who helped Kotoyuki. Now, in the February following Kotoyuki's attack, terrible things started happening to the Tsuneki family. As the family physician tells us, on February 1st, family members were showing signs of headache, fever, vertigo, chills, vomiting, diarrhea. He assumed it to be a cold, but even after giving them medicine, they continued to get worse. 1 week later, the family's health took another nosedive. This time, laboured breathing, cognitive impairment, quadriplegia, involuntary movements. Interestingly, the doctor also notes that their facial features appear to be distorting. It's like their teeth are bared and eyes narrowed in a menacing glare. Sounds curiously like all those fox statues we see around the shrine, huh? Just a coincidence, I'm sure. On February 10th, the Tsunekis appear to be regressing even further, running around on all fours and making strange sounds. The housemaids are whispering about it being fox possession, and the head of the family refuses to allow any members to be taken to the hospital. Then, on February 13th, Hidetoshi and his wife pass away. The doctor tells us their bodies were covered in sores and had begun sloughing off. They were also giving off an incredibly awful smell. Again, the head of the family refuses to allow any autopsies to be carried out, and the bodies are cremated immediately. After that, Hidetoshi's eldest son with his wife dies. At the same time, his 2 daughters are also experiencing the same symptoms, and there are fears they too will die shortly. However, a miracle occurs. 2 days later, both daughters show dramatic improvements, and 2 days after that, both have made a full recovery, like nothing was ever wrong with them. The doctor is beyond confused and starts to question if this is perhaps something beyond what science can explain. But what exactly happened here? Why did Hidetoshi, his wife, and his son die, but the 2 daughters miraculously recovered right after? What killed them in the first place? Well, there's 2 possibilities here. One that's stronger than the other, but either way, they both still come from the same place. Kotoyuki and his mother. We know that Kotoyuki was possessed by the fox when he was bitten. The doctor who examined him even mentioned that when he regained consciousness, he said, "Kotoyuki. So, that is my name." He's very clearly a different person after this, and that's thanks to the fox possession. We also know that after seeing Hinako, he was consumed with an obsessive desire to have her. This is the Tsuneki curse, and when the fox realizes she's the next girl with that special, blessed blood, he has to have her. The thought becomes all-consuming. Kotoyuki, under the influence of the fox, will do whatever it takes to have her. And, well, being an illegitimate child at this point, first things first, he has to find a way back into the Tsuneki family and figure out how to become their heir. And how better to do that than to, well, kill them all off. While it's possible that Sachiie herself cast a curse upon the family, she certainly has no love lost for them after the way she was unceremoniously kicked out. It's more likely that the fox god himself was the one putting in work here. For whatever reason, he picked Kotoyuki as his next living heir, and so he set about removing all obstacles to that goal. He cursed Hidetoshi, his wife, and his son, killing them with a horrible illness that had them almost regressing into foxes before all their skin rotted and fell off. A reminder, when we see Kotoyuki in his boss form, he's also red and covered in sores. The game even tells us, his beautiful coat, however, is covered with putrid festers. This is because of his ancestors' possession. He's the one doing all this, and when defeated, his beautiful coat returns. So, with any potential heirs out of the way, well, there's nothing to stand between Kotoyuki taking over the clan now. Why do the daughters miraculously recover after this? Because they're not threats. Being women, they cannot be heirs, and so the fox cares nothing for them anymore. They cannot stand between him and his goals. And it works. Shortly after their deaths, Kotoyuki's grandfather summons him and invites him to become the next successor to the Tsuneki lineage. He and his mother set off, and that's that. Kotoyuki continues to train, study, and grow up, all while obsessing over Hinako and what he can do to make her marry him. After all, their family needs that blood. But that's a topic for another video. And that is the story of the strange illness that affected the Tsuneki family, and why, oddly, only the 2 daughters survived. But what did you guys think of this one? Are there any other topics from the game you'd like to see me cover? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.